questions I've got recently. I'm going to make a quick stream here this morning, or I guess it's almost afternoon. Yeah, it's afternoon. It's almost 3 p.m. Um, so hidden mechanics in Bazaar. I think it'll be funny to look back on this video in a year after they fix some of this stuff, but like here's an example. I think there's a lot of bugs in the game that end up manifesting as hidden mechanics. So we can watch this quick example. This guy's got Radiant double whammy here that has 12,387 damage and a multicast of 2. So it should hit, and then zero point 0.1 seconds later, I believe, it should hit again. Now, there's a lot of unofficial sources of people saying internal cooldowns on items are zero point 0.2 seconds. I believe this is incorrect. I believe the game ticks at 1.1 seconds. So every zero point 0.1 seconds, all the items are evaluated saying, should I have triggered in the past zero point 0.1 seconds or now? And if so, then they trigger. And when items with multicast trigger, they put a trigger on the stack, meaning the next time the item is evaluating whether it should trigger or not, it also checks if there's a multicast on the stack. And if there is, then it will trigger. So I believe that happens zero point 0.1 seconds after it triggers the first time. It will add that trigger to the stack. So we'll see here that that item's about to go off and boom. So we see this happen. Now you see the cooldown timer at the bottom here, and it's already moving up. So I believe that 0 0.1 seconds after we see this animation, another animation is going to play. So we can see that this did not crit, right? So this 1239, it has a 30% crit chance on this item. And then 0 0.1 seconds later, we see that there is a crit here. Now, what I don't understand is that this is a bug in the game because, I mean, there's two different bugs that we're observing here. And it's alarming to me. Like my simulator doesn't have this problem. Um, I don't know how it could possibly be displaying these two different numbers. If you add these numbers up together, you get 2 times 12,387, almost. It's like slightly different. Like if you just multiply that number by 2 for what it should be for a crit, it's actually not equal to the addition of these two numbers. So these two numbers are coming out of nowhere, and I don't know how the opponent was taking them differently. Um, So there's still a lot of mysteries in the game. There's a lot of things that no one really understands, right? You look at these screen recordings of matches, and sometimes things just happen that make no sense at all. Um, but we do see at least that 0 0.1 second time difference, right, between when it triggered and when the other thing triggered. Um, there's some mechanics that people just don't know about, like hasting items with 1.4 seconds. We recently just fixed this yesterday. So if we go to Bazaar Planner and we go to the simulator, um, if you put in an item, let's say we had reduced the cooldown a bunch, or like let's do even better. Atomic clock is a good example. Atomic clock. Now if we put this on the board and let's say we give them the rigged skill and we start the battle. Um, oh, actually it's not going to show anything in the combat log. Let's put something, um, anything, abacus. So this has a 5-second cooldown. After the ray goes off, it should have a 6-second and a 7-second. Okay, so now I can pause the battle. So you see that the atomic clock went off at 1 second, at 2 seconds, and 3 seconds. Previously, the site was bugged and was not mimicking the real game battle. Previously, it would have went off at 0.5 seconds, and then 1 second, and then 1.5 seconds, because hasted should make it go twice as fast, right? Well, yes, but in the game, hasted items cannot go faster than 1 second. So it will always end up happening at 1 second. And this is kind of true. So like let's say that we had the atomic clock with a 1.5 second cooldown. So now it's getting hasted at the start of combat for 3 seconds. And we see that it's still triggering at 1 second, 2 seconds, and 3 seconds. What's going on there? Well, the haste normally would make it trigger at zero point 0.7 seconds, 0.75 seconds, but it can't do that. So it can only speed up the item by an amount that would make the item trigger at 1 second while hasted. This is a really confusing thing, right? Because it's like you're multiplying the amount of time that has passed by some amount. Um, you like every item like keeps track of how much time has passed, and at some point it says I've enough time has passed that I need to trigger. So as you're telling it, hey, 500 milliseconds have passed, it says actually, when I'm hasted, I'll treat it as if 1,000 milliseconds have passed. But the amount of time that you're treating it as if it has passed will be different because the item has a cooldown less than 2 seconds, and you have to pass time differently in that scenario to make it to where the item can only trigger every 1 second. Now, I don't know how they implemented that exactly in their engine, but that's kind of the way that I've tried to make the engine that I have here work the same way. Trying to think of other hidden mechanics we have here. Items that trigger at the same cooldown is a big part of today's puzzle that we're putting out. So we already had one of the puzzles kind of looking at this. I think it was like puzzle 3. Yeah. So puzzle 3 examined a case where you have a pig's gym and an alpha ray. And I'm not going to spoil it, but they both have a 6-second cooldown. And the pig's gym has a 3600 value, so it's going to add 3600 damage to the alpha ray. So if you run this battle, potentially all the items trigger at the same time. Now, one thing that's interesting is you're not going to die. Like, if this pig's gym gave this guy damage and he hit first, you don't die before you get to also hit back, right? You get a chance to hit back and then it's a tie because it happens at the same time, quote unquote. But again, and nothing really actually happens at the same time. It happens during the same tick is the way to think about it. I was recently having a conversation with Ragnar Regis about this um, on his stream last night, and it's important to understand that everything has an order, and the order may be random on the server, or maybe not random, and there are priorities on items. So part of the solution to this puzzle depends on the priority. You can go to bazaardb.ggg and let's look at the gym. So we load up the gym. We have deep mechanics here, and there is a priority attached to the item. This has a priority of low. This is inactive for when you, oh no, this says add the value of this card to the damage amount of all cards on your board until the end of the fight. So this is kind of like the behind the scenes mechanics. And bazaardb.gg scrapes the actual game files in order to get these things. So we can trust that in the game there is something on this item called priority that has low on it. Now if we look at alpha ray, for example, this has a priority of medium. So the solution to that puzzle is essentially understanding what that means. That means that items that are triggering in the same server tick will go in the order of their priority. So high will go first, then medium will go, and then low will go. And the medium items, like in this case for this puzzle, since alpha ray is medium, it will do its damage first, and then the pig's gems will go. So both the rays will do 8 damage first. Let me just log in here really quick. Oh, I am logged in? No, I am not logged in. Oh, interesting. I don't have this should be a login button when I'm logged out. That might be a problem. It's interesting. The only way to log in is actually to go try to submit a puzzle. That needs to be fixed. I'm gonna fix that today. Um, puzzle 3, load in simulator. So we can see that when we run this in the simulator, boom. Now both players just took 8 damage because they had 1,000 life before, because the rays went off first, and then the gyms added their damage to the rays. And now if we unpause it, the same thing's going to happen again, but they're both going to kill each other in the same tick, and it's going to be a tie. Boom. They both win. Both have victory on them. So yeah, so that's an interesting hidden mechanic, is this priority on items. And there's no way of knowing what the priority of the item is. I really think they should add a priority, maybe color, uh, to the background of the text on the tooltip of the item, so you can see like this, your weapons gain damage equal to this item's value for the fight. I could put like a certain color for that priority on the background of that text, or just put, a priority sign in front of it that has a different icon, maybe like a snail or a rabbit or a, whatever, rocket launcher, high, medium, low. Um, and then that would indicate that. So I thought about adding that to the display of the items, but I'm waiting to see what they do, because maybe they'll actually have an icon of their own that they'll end up using for something like that. So yeah, priority is a hidden mechanic. Let me think about other hidden mechanics that we might have here. It helps to just kind of look through all the items. Burning and shielding, a lot of people don't understand that if you have shield, the burn only does half damage. So we can see this really quickly. A lot of these things you can test too, but burn, let's just put, sure, let's put a flamethrower. Let's just give it a 1-second cooldown so it happens faster. And okay, so we can see in the combat log, Pygmalion has 2 burn and burns for 2. Pygmalion has 1 burn and burns for 1. Right? Now, if he has shield, it will say something different. Right here it's saying Pygmalion has 2 burn, burns for 1. So in this case, when he had 2 burn, he burned for 2, but because he had shield, he had 2 burn, but he only burned for 1 because of the shield reduced that by 50%. So that's not really a hidden mechanic, but it's not easy to learn until you've played with it. Um, Healing items will remove stacks of burn. So we can look at like a first aiden. If when the first aiden heals, a stack of burn will be removed. So let's see if we can see this in the combat log. Okay, so first aiden healed Pygmalion for 20. You know what? I don't know if I ever implemented that. I know that it's removing poison in the sim, but maybe it's not actually removing burn. Because this should have said he has 1 burn. Also, there's weirdness with rounding in the game. I found it to be somewhat inconsistent. Like, when you have 1 burn, do you burn for 1 or you burn for 0? Sometimes when you have shield, you burn for 0. And it's like, okay, well, they're rounding down then, because the shield, the 1 burn was reduced to 0.5, and then they just floored it, or they reduced it to the lowest nearest integer, which would be 0. And so I've seen many VODs where people just don't take burn damage or don't lose any shield when they have 1 burn, um, which is confusing. Like, is the burn stack getting removed before you're taking damage, or are you taking damage and then the burn stack is being removed? So some of this I haven't done exactly in the simulator yet. It's kind of unknown because it seems to have be behaving differently in game in different scenarios. Um, it's a little bit troubling because it would be nice to know exactly how it's meant to work. They don't have anything on their website that kind of explains this, right? And maybe that's just because it's still in like beta, so it's subject to change. They might change their engine, and then after they do a release, they'll talk about how the engine is currently working, and then they'll release anything in patch notes if it changes going forward. Um, I believe that the How Bazaar developer, Mio, is meeting with Rained today to talk about some stuff. So he kind of is displaying stuff. One of the really cool features he added recently is patch notes. So you can see the exact differences on items. You see a diff. So the chocolate bars changed. Its enchantments. The cinders have changed their enchantments. The citruses have changed their enchantments. And this is like a really big deal, right? Like you get enchanted versions of the tropical island, and it's kind of really, really nice now that you're getting, um, a way to stack shield on your items, or a way to stack heal on your items, or a way to stack poison or burn on your items, especially, is really powerful. So some of these, like knowing that these enchants even exist in this way, is not really a hidden mechanic, but having items that generate items, knowing that those generated items also get enchants, is kind of a hidden mechanic because it doesn't say anything about that on the item itself. It's not like every day you will get a version of this. Like we can look at Tropical Island, right? And it just says fiery when you slow burn 5. And so you think, oh, okay. But it should also say, you know, when you slow burn 5, your coconuts or citruses are also fiery. Like it should say that text there. Because it's not saying that there, I feel like that mechanic is hidden. Um, and you kind of have to discover it. Or see streamers who have already discovered it. There are other items like this, like the gumball machine. Let's look at the gumballs. What do they do? Oh, so if you get a fiery gumball machine, then all the gumballs that it generates every hour is going to give your items +2 burn, because it's going to generate fiery blue gumballs or fiery green gumballs, and it has the same effect of fiery on all these items. This is probably going to change. They'll probably set this somehow to indicate that that happens, right? When you get fiery, it should say burn equal 10% item shield. At the start of each hour, spend gold to get a fiery gumball, something like that. Um, or maybe they'll just remove that to where these generated items don't have enchants in the future. It does seem like it's a little bit broken on some of these items, specifically Gumball Machine, Tropical Island. The boots are also wonderful. What are they called? Bootstraps, yeah, these guys. So every 50 you spend, upgrade an item of lower tier. This one does say it, so it's not hidden. And enchant the item with fiery if able, right? That's wonderful. So now you know that this can enchant all your items on your board, as if you use it to upgrade all your items. So that's not really hidden either. I think of another hidden mechanic in the game. Crit, ammo. Hmm. We went over the haste and cooldown stuff. There is like double damage, triple damage, these kind of mechanics when they stack. The way I've implemented it is that double damage just adds a multiplier. So your base multiplier is 1. Like if you ever gain damage on an item, like let's say you had the alpha ray, right? And you had a core that it gets used. So when the core triggers, you're going to see this guy's damage go up by 2, right? Every time the core is being triggered, his damage is increasing by 2. So that's because of the alpha ray. But so he has a 1x multiplier. So if we had something that gave our weapons double damage, I think, what does obsidian even do? Yeah, this has double damage. So that's kind of interesting. And it burns equal to 2 times this item's damage. So like if we make this diamond now, you see this is 8 and 16. But as we add damage to it, so when the core triggers, let's see what happens. So it went from 8 to 12. So it's only supposed to gain 2 damage, right? But because it has double damage, that 2 damage ends up being treated as 4. And then that 4 damage, again, is being doubled and treated as 8 more burning. So we see it started at 16, but when that core triggered, it went to 24. So there's some kind of hiddenness with that. I mean, it kind of works the way you would expect, but it is kind of amazing that when the core is triggering, this thing is getting a doubled amount of burn from that damage that was added. So there's some mechanics like that in the game um, that are a little bit confusing. Sometimes you can get, like, your weapons have double damage. You can get that twice because there'll be a skill that gives it, and then the weapon will give it also. And that doesn't actually give you double, it gives you triple, which is kind of weird. But again, you'll think about it. I think that's the case where it just adds 1 to the multiplier. So double damage is just adding 1 to the multiplier. So it goes from a 1x to a 2x and then to a 3x. I can't think of how to construct this, but I remember looking at it at one point. I think there's a skill that gives double damage. Let's see. We search double. We've got double the damage of your large weapons. Let's try this. So we need to get a large weapon. If I search large weapon, it should find it. So we can put in maybe a combat core, which would be great. Let's take this one away. And if we make this guy obsidian, it has double damage, but then it also has double damage here. So you see it's at 180, whereas if it's on this board, it's only at 60. Because it started at 30, it has double damage, so it went to 60, and then here it's going to 180. That might be a bug, because 60 times 3 is 180. I was expecting it to be 30 times 3. I was expecting it to be 90 or 120, not 180. Yeah, this could be a bug in my sim. um, I'm gonna look into this later today. But yeah, so this is a hidden mechanic. Sometimes this happens in game too, though. They have like weird interactions between a doubling of a doubling. But I can't possibly see how that would do that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'm gonna end the stream, publish it to YouTube, and then maybe restream the fixing of this or examining why this is happening the way it is. So if you like that, tune into our Twitch stream, and you can follow along for some of this kind of development talk. Catch you later.